Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Good evening, everyone. You are visiting the Executive Nominations Committee. We're going to start tonight with the Port Commission because some folks have come from far away. But I want to thank you all for being here. Hope you've taken the time to enjoy the beautiful city of Annapolis. And if not, maybe you'll take some time after the meeting. As we finish each group, each commission, you're welcome to leave. You don't need to stay till the end. So don't feel like you have to sit with us all night. Hopefully we don't sit all night, but thank you all for being here. So we're going to start with the Port Commission. And is Senator Washington here yet? Maybe we aren't going to start there. Okay. Is Senator Gallion here? Senator Gallion is not here.
Yeah, we could do Corinthia Barber.
Do what?
We could do Corinthia Barber.
Can we? Well, who's going to do it?
Me.
Okay. All right. We are going to start with the Port Commission, and Vice Chair Hayes is going to do Corinthia Barber for us for the Maryland Port Commission.
There we are. Good evening, members of the committee. Senator Antonio Hayes from the 40th Legislative District. For the record, it is with great pleasure that I bring to you all Corinthia Barber, who is no stranger to most in Baltimore. She is always active and lending her expertise to the community of Baltimore City, including many of us in elected office as a leader, as a business leader, and a native Baltimorean hailing from the 43rd District. I present to you, Madam Corinthia Barber, and I'm sure my other colleagues will have something to say about this esteemed nominee this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Hayes. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vital, Vice Chair Hayes, Mr. President Ferguson, and all the members of the Senate Executive Nominations Committee. Thank you for this opportunity to appear before you regarding my nomination to the Port Commission. And a special thank you to Governor Wes Moore and Secretary Edwards, who's here, for your confidence in my nomination to the Port Commission. This nomination has special significance for both me and my family, who is here with me today. As the youngest child of Jay and Rosa Barber, the Port of Baltimore has always been a part of my life and has afforded me and my family many advantages and many opportunities. Our father, J.S. Barber, dedicated over 30 years of his life to the port as a hardworking and loyal member of the International Longshoremen's Association. We learned our work ethic by seeing our father rise early in the morning before dawn, headed to the port. And for over 30 years, he never missed a day of work, regardless of physical challenges or weather or any other things that many of us use as excuses not to show up sometimes. Continuing his legacy, my brother, number 6, served the Port of Baltimore for over 30 years until his recent retirement. Together, our parents instilled in us a reverence for God, a value for education, and a commitment to community service. I humbly ask for your support of my nomination to the Port Commission to allow me to expand my commitment to serving the great state of Maryland. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Barber. Are there any questions from the committee? You said your family was here. Would you like to introduce them and they can stand?
It's a whole lot of us.
Thank you, family.
Starting with my sisters, Shirley Barber, Juanita Chandler, Dr. Willie Barber, George Barber, and Kevin Barber to the far left.
Which one's number 6? Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And to everyone else, if you have friends or family members here that you would like to introduce, please feel free to do that because none of us get to these positions on our own. It takes a team. So thank you. Next, we're going to ask Senator Gallion to introduce David Richardson.
Good evening, Mr. President, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the Executive Nominations Committee. For the record, Senator Jason Gallion, representing District 35, Cecil and Hartford counties. Tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing Mr. David Richardson, nominee for the Maryland Port Commission. David Richardson is Managing Director and Head of Federal Affairs for Southwest Airlines. In this role, David leads all of Southwest federal policy and advocacy efforts before Congress and the federal agencies that regulate the commercial aviation industry. David has been a proud Southwest employee since 2006. Prior to joining Southwest, David was Chief of Staff at the Maryland Aviation Administration from 2003 to 2006. While working for Congresswoman Helen Delich Bentley, David rose from intern to staff assistant to legislative assistant. Upon Ms. Bentley's retirement from Congress, David was her principal aide for matters related to the commercial maritime industry and the Port of Baltimore. Since 2015, David has been a Maryland Port Commissioner. As a longtime friend and mentee of Helen Bentley, David tries to carry on her legacy at the port. David received his BA from American University, MA from George Washington University, and JD from the Catholic University of America. David resides in Bel Air with his wife and 3 children. Please join me in welcoming nominee for Maryland Port Commission, Mr. David Richardson.
Thank you, Senator. Madam Chair, Mr. President, members of the committee, I'm just honored to be here. As Senator Gallion just said, I've been a Port Commissioner since 2015. I've been very honored to serve. I take my fiduciary duties very seriously, as well as my love and appreciation for the Port of Baltimore and all the economic benefits derived from the port. And I pledge to you, I will continue to exercise my duties very diligently and in the best interest of the state of Maryland. And I also want to thank Ms. Edwards over there too for the appointment and the governor. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. I just want to say I work with Mr. Richardson on some committees, partner in the partnership committee, and I really appreciate working with you. And we have a beautiful Southwest airplane that sits in the Senate cabinet, and that was a gift from Mr. Richardson and Southwest. So thank you very much for being here and for all your work that you do for us. Thank you, David.
Thank you very much. And it's an honor. I don't know if you all know this, but the state of Maryland is unique. It's the only state that owns and operates a major international seaport and a major international airport. And I feel very blessed and honored to work with both entities, which makes the state very unique and special. Thank you.
Thank you. I need to tell Senator Washington that your nominee was introduced. So Corintha Barber was already introduced.
I understand. I just
Okay.
wanted to, I had her listed as 14th. I was 8 minutes.
I know.
So I just
I
wanted
started
to
for people
confirm-
that came a long distance. So my
No
apologies.
worries. I just was really looking forward to the opportunity to actually affirm my strong endorsement. She started out as my community association president and does a very good job on everything that she works hard on. And I just didn't want to miss an opportunity to strongly endorse her to the committee in this new role. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Washington. Senator Watson, would you like to introduce Sandy Roberts? And this is our final port commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, colleagues. I am pleased to present and support the nomination of Sandy Roberts for the Maryland Port Commissions. Sandy is a prominent attorney with a diverse set of experiences, currently chairman of University of Maryland Capital Region Medical Center Foundation, former chairman of State of Maryland Criminal Injuries Compensation Board, and former HOA president from one of the most prominent communities in my district. With a JD from the University of Virginia School of Law and a partner in the Roberts Law Group, I think his experience will be very, very diverse and add a critical component to the Port Commission. I present Sandy Roberts.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Madam Chair, Senate President, I'd like to, first of all, thank Governor Moore, Secretary Edwards for making this appointment. Senators, it's been an honor of mine to serve on the Port Commission. One of the things that Senator Brown did not mention was I also have an extensive business background. And in particular, my wife and I, my wife is here, we run an airport concession business in 8 airports in the US, approximately 70 stores. So we have an extensive business background as well to go with the legal component that Senator Brown mentioned. It would be my pleasure to serve on the board. Senator Watson. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I gave it 3
So
shots.
sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I will tell you, the first time I met Ron, he was knocking on my door, asking me to support him. So you got me back. So I would be happy to take any questions that you may have, and my apologies, Senator.
Thank you. Do I have any questions? No questions. Thank you very
And
much.
if I may, I'd like to ask my wife to just stand. and just be
Absolutely.
recognized.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think we're going to go back to the beginning. Senator Carter, would you like to introduce Walter Brown, the Blind Industries and Services of Maryland Board of Trustees?
Thank you, Madam Chair, very much so. Appreciate it. Madam Chair, members of the committee, it's my honor to recommend and support Dr. Walter A. Brown. He's a native Marylander. He received his Bachelor of Science Business Administration from Morgan State University, his MBA in Finance from Atlanta University in higher education, and his EDD from higher education from George Washington University. Dr. Brown specializes in higher education, finance, strategic planning, and higher education administrative issues. Dr. Brown also teaches higher education administration theory, higher education futures, and strategic planning and finance of higher education. Lots of finance, lots of higher education. So he's eminently qualified for this position. Dr. Brown has authored or co-authored approximately 22 publications and has given numerous scholarly presentations. He has 8 articles for publication in progress, all dealing with higher education. Dr. Brown's skills, background, experience, wisdom make him a great asset to the Board of Trustees of the Blind Industries and Services of Maryland. With that, I bring you Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Senator Carter. Yes, I just like to say I'm glad to have the opportunity to serve again. I've already been a board member, and this is my 2nd or 3rd reappointment, so just happy to serve.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Brown, for your service. Do you have any family or friends with you tonight?
Yes, my significant other, Kathy Green.
Yay. Thank you. And thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Okay, we have to hold our next appointment because the senator's on his way. So we're going to go to Senator Watson again, Maria Hankerson for the Community Health Resources Commission.
For the record, my name is Senator Watson from the 23rd District. Good afternoon, colleagues. I am pleased to introduce and support the nomination of Dr. Maria Hankerson for the position on the Maryland Communities Health Resources Commission. Dr. Hankerson is a healthcare expert with over 35 years of experience in the industry, having founded 3 health-related firms. She holds an earned doctorate degree from Howard University in social work and social psychology. For varied background of experiences to include Office of National Drug Control Policy at the White House, and just 6 years ago, one of Washington's metropolitan area's most influential women in the state of Maryland, is designated by the Senate of Maryland's minority leader of the 23rd District. I am proud to support and introduce Dr. Maria Hankerson.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Madam Chair, Mr. President. It's a distinct honor to have the privilege to come and speak with you today. Throughout my professional career, which really began in about 1989, having freshly earned a doctorate, it has been in the field of health. I have been very concerned about healthcare disparities, not just for ethnic people, but for all working poor. As I started this career some 35, 40 years ago, I find that we have not made much progress. And it is my distinct hope that I can bring my expertise to the commission for which I've been appointed and help the state of Maryland do an even better job for which it has been doing. As my my senator has mentioned, my academic background will help, but more specifically, my boots on the field background will help. You know, I think that there are many opportunities for us to take the resources we have and tweak them a bit better to reach people for which we are all here representing today. I thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and if there are any questions, I'm open. I should also add, I did not have a presentation planned, so I'm speaking extemporaneously. So
Dr. Hankerson, thank you. We don't expect a presentation, but thank you. Thank you for your service. I think you're going to bring really important experience to this commission. Do I have any questions for Dr. Hankerson? No. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
I think we saw Senator Motz sitting way in the back, so he is here. Thank you for being here, Senator Motz. Will you please present Mr. Milton Malkus for the Chesapeake and Atlantic Coastal Bays Critical Area Commission?
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. It's a great honor to be here, and it's a pleasure today to introduce Milton M. Malkus for appointment to the Critical Area Commission for the Chesapeake Bay Atlantic Coastal Bays. Milton, who I've never called Milton before. Milton goes by Chad. Chad is a descendant of Senator Malkus, so he has deep roots here in Annapolis, and I'm proud to introduce him to the committee. He knows the bays very well and will be an excellent steward for us. Thank you. Chad.
Thank you, Senator Mouse. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I promised my 14-year-old son, Finn, that's here with me, that I wouldn't make any speeches. So I dragged him here, but thank you for the opportunity to serve on the Critical Areas Commission.
Thank you. I do have a question, if you don't mind. So my Board of Appeals in Anne Arundel County have been a little disappointed in recent times that they don't hear from the Chesapeake and Atlantic Coastal Bays when they have a critical area issue. Is that something that you all can begin to weigh in on, please?
Certainly.
I would appreciate that.
Certainly.
Thank you. Any other? Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Senator.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome, and I also support your nomination. I just wanted to ask you one question. I have found as the senator that represents the coastal bays, that there's often, when you cross the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, that there seems to be a focus just on the Chesapeake Bay, but as you can see, your commission is Chesapeake and Atlantic Coastal Bays. So I just wanted to ask you if you had a very brief thought on how to make sure that both Chesapeake and Atlantic Coastal Bays are prioritized.
Absolutely. And, you know, I look at the Eastern Shore as, you know, one cohesive thing, and I don't stop at where, you know, the water shifts direction and wherever it's flowing. So certainly I think it's, I have a place in Worcester County, and the coastal areas are extremely important to me, and making sure that the voice of the Eastern Shore is heard on the commission is extremely important to me. Thank you. Wow, I wasn't ready for any of that, but thank you. Thank you all very much. Yeah.
Next, we have the Contract Appeals Board. Senator Brooks, Will you please present Central Barrow? I hope I got close to that.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Executive Nom Committee. For the record, I'm Senator Brooks. I represent the 10th Legislative District in Baltimore County. I'm pleased to support the nomination of Sanchel Burrell Esquire. This stalwart and venerated lawyer has an impressive resume. She clerked for former Chief Judge Robert M. Bell. Yeah, the expertise that she has will bring a lot of greatness to the state of Maryland. And I'm happy to present to you Ms. Sanchel Burrell. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I would like to thank Governor Moore, as others before me, as well as Secretary Edwards, who is here. I'm excited for this nomination. As indicated, I have been a practicing attorney. I've been practicing for 16 years with experience before the Maryland State Board of Contract Appeals, as well as the Baltimore Board of Estimates in terms of procurement. I've had the opportunity to argue on both sides, depending on my client's posture in terms of advocating in favor of the state's recommended awardee and against with respect to bid protest. I've also had experience with contract claims, and I'm excited for this opportunity to be appointed at a time when sports wagering will become an issue within the jurisdiction of the MSBCA. I understand and take very seriously this role and this position with an independent board that is impartial and that will allow me to make decisions in combination with the other members that are in the best interest of the state in terms of value, the best interest of the taxpayers, and also with fairness toward contractors who spend a lot of time and resources to get to the point of potentially being awarded for contracts. I thank you all for your consideration, and I would like to acknowledge that here with me is my father and attorney, Robert DeShiel, who has been called the archetype, particularly with respect to Maryland minority business enterprise law, and has served as a very personal mentor to me as we practiced together for about the last 10 years and has encouraged me to this point to apply for this appointment, which I'm very grateful to have received. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Do I have any questions? Nope, you got off easy. Thank you. Senator Hedelman, would you like to present Lawrence Rivets, Maryland Public-Private Partnership Marketing Corporation Board of Directors?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Shelley Hedelman from District 11 in Baltimore County, and I'm very happy to be here today to introduce you to Larry Rivets, someone I've known for many, many years. He is a wonderful selection for this position. He has, as you can see from his resume, decades of experience in marketing and has represented a variety of both private entities and nonprofit organizations. And I do want to point out, he is the co-founder and co-chair of Green Street Academy, and Foundation, which is a very successful grade 6 through 12 public charter school in the city. And it just has an enormous amount of time and commitment, a lot of sweat for a number of really wonderful community organizations in the city and in our surrounding area. So I'm really happy he lives in the 11th district and happy to introduce him to you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hedelman. Madam Chair, Vice Chair, President Ferguson, Secretary Edwards, wherever she led. Of course. First of all, I want to thank you all for this nomination and for the opportunity to wear a suit for the first time since the pandemic. I feel like such an adult in the room. It's like terrific. This is really an honor to serve on this board. I particularly appreciate Secretary Edwards, and you can relay this to her, that I really cared deeply about being able to apply what I know and my experience to support the state and to support our governor. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rivets. It's a really important job that you'll be doing, so we really, really appreciate your service. Do you have any questions at all? Thank you very much. Senator Feldman, the Open Meetings Law Compliance Board, Renaco Alsop.
How are you? We're just meeting for the first time. I have to acknowledge that, but just looking at the resume of Ms. Alsop, it's outstanding to be a member of the State Open Meetings Law Compliance Board. If you look at her background, since August, she's been serving as the Legal Compliance Officer at Hood College, or to Hood College. For nearly 4 years, she served as the Assistant Attorney General and FOIA Officer for the DC Office of the Attorney General. For 8 years before that, served as attorney advisor and ethics FOIA officer for the DC Department of Consumer Regulatory Affairs. And finally, from 2005 to 08, served as government fraud prosecutor and special assistant United States attorney in the office of the DC Attorney General. She has a bachelor's degree in political science from Oregon State, a law degree from Tulane Law School. And with that, she seems again eminently qualified for this position. So I present to you Renaco Alsop.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Good evening. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Again, my name is Renaco Alsop. I'm a proud resident of North Potomac, Maryland. I've served as a prosecutor for over 20 years, prosecuting everything from fraud to murder. But I've always been a strong proponent of open government and transparency. I've served as the FOIA officer for 2 very large agencies in the District of Columbia, and I was also appointed by Mayor Muriel Bowser to the Open Government Advisory Group, where we hope to come up with ideas to help make government more transparent and accessible to the public. I'm very happy to be here, and I look forward to serving on the Open Meeting Compliance Board. I also want to thank my sister for coming to support me, Mondi Kamula Frazier. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from any of the members? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
So we have several people for the Police Training and Standards Commission. And first we'll have Senator Watson introducing Mr. Dirk Butler.
Good afternoon again, colleagues. For the record, I'm Senator Watson from the 23rd District. Hey, it gives me great pleasure to introduce and recommend to the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission, Mr. Dirk Butler. Mr. Butler has broad experience. President and Chief Operating Officer of the Center for Policing Equity, and in that capacity is responsible for the leadership strategic direction of a $75 million science and data organization with over 200 full-time employees. You have his resume, but you'll see phrases such as knowledge management, analytical findings, evidence-based initiatives. And I say that as a scientist myself, it's important that we have on these commissions people who are able to make fact-based, data-driven, informed decisions. So I'm very happy about that. Finally, I do want to state that he's working on his PhD from University of Chicago. And as we say, he's ABD, all but dissertation. He's almost there. I am proud to support Mr. Dirk Butler for this opportunity.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair, esteemed committee, I'd just like to say thank you for the opportunity to serve my state, a state that I love, a state that I've made my home, a state where my children were born and raised. As you heard, I have over 25 years of experience in my professional trajectory, and I've really dedicated my life to equity, service, research, and community development. And if there's one thing that I've learned in that time, it's that law enforcement has a pivotal role to play in community development, especially with marginalized communities. And I've dedicated my life to making sure that that role is played with not only integrity, but without question, researched and dated facts. So again, I'd just like to thank all of you for the opportunity. I'd like to thank Governor Moore for the opportunity as well. And I'm humbled by it. And I hope to serve Maryland in a very strong capacity. I'd also like to introduce my fiance, Ms. Jennifer Ward, soon to be Jennifer Butler, for being here to support me, and also my longtime friend and also very strong Marylander, Mr. Leon Bailey. And I'll answer any questions that you may have this time.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Butler? Thank you very much. Now, your term says it starts June 1st of 2023. So you have to come back and let us know how it was, because you haven't had any meetings yet, right? Or
That's-
have you?
That's
You have.
correct. We have that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is Senator Young here? Senator Karen Lewis Young? Let's skip over for just a minute. Senator Hayes, would you like to present Mr. Raymond Kelly?
Good evening, members of the Executive Nominations Committee, Madam Chair, Mr. President, members of the committee. I'm Senator Antonio Hayes for the record, representing Baltimore City 40th District. Bring to you this evening, Mr. Raymond Kelly. We know him as Ray. He's the Principal Executive Director of the Citizens Policing Project, lead community liaison for the Consent Decree Monitoring Team, former president and CEO of No Boundaries Coalition, the Justice Policy Network Fellow, chair of the Oversight Task Force, as well as the Civilian Training Review Committee. But also what is more exceptional, if you look at the last page of the write-up that he's provided to us, there's years and years of recognitions for his community service to the community in Baltimore. Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm proud to introduce you to my friend, Ray Kelly.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the governor and Secretary Edwards for this honor and nomination, as well as Madam Chair and members of the committee for your consideration. And I look forward to another opportunity to continue to serve my community, my city, and my state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Do you have any questions for Mr. Kelly? No, I don't see any. Thank you. Next, we will have Senator Brooks for Darwin Lamberth.
Good evening again. Madam Chair, members of the committee, for the record, I'm Senator Brooks, representing the 10th Legislative District in Baltimore County. It is with pleasure that I support the nomination of Mr. Darwin Lamberth Sr. He's a highly qualified police officer with 4.5 years experience in law enforcement. His other 6 years of diversified experience with training and administrative concept will leave him well positioned to be an effective member of the Police Training and Standards Commission. You have his resume, so I won't go through all of that for you, but I'll let him share some more of his experience with you. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Mr. President, thank you all for this opportunity. Governor Moore and Secretary Edwards for this opportunity to stand before you all this afternoon to say thank you for this opportunity to be a part of change, part of to help with the resolution of the state of Maryland. If anything that I can put my expertise as being a police officer in the state of Maryland. Thank you all.
Do I have any questions? Oh, we do. Senator Croza.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Lambert, I want to thank you for your enforcement service. And I wanted to ask you, being appointed to this commission, which I think really serving at this time is a very crucial time. And I saw your experience being a school police officer. I guess my question to you would be, serving on this commission and given your prior experience, how do you think you could best support recruitment and retention for law enforcement officers who exhibit integrity and who are also engaged in proactive policing? Just talk to us about the balance.
Being a school police officer, and you're saying to balance being proactive, and what was the other one? I'm sorry.
I'm trying to address how we take someone with your experience and you have, you know, the retention and recruitment issues in law enforcement, and you're serving on a commission that really can play a critical role in improving in that area. And so those law enforcement officers who demonstrate integrity, but are also proactive in their policing, how we can, you know, how you might be able to use your role to increase retention and recruitment.
So thank you, Senator, for that question. So basically, we would, you know, sit down and have a conversation with different agencies, because right now the agency that I'm currently with, we having that same issue, but we're having a conversation with the chiefs and people that are in the town to see how is it, one, is it a financial issue, or is people just don't want to be in law enforcement no more? So my goal as part of this commission is to sit down with my colleagues and law enforcement around the state to see how we can better support them, and also better to keep their officers, retention of their officers.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for your service. I'm going to back up just a minute. Senator Lewis Young is not here, but Mr. Patrick Campbell, are you here? I know you have a little bit of a drive to go back, so I'm going to do a short introduction for you so that you can probably get back on the road. So Mr. Patrick Campbell, in your professional experience, I read that your key achievement is to execute organizational coordination collaboration with local, state, and federal teams planning for the 2021 presidential inauguration, including developing evacuation routes and mass casualty response. I think that you'll bring experience and asset to the Police Training and Standards Commission that will be well appreciated. So thank you for being here tonight.
Yep, thank you very much. Well, thank you for the nomination. Thank you to the governor as well. My family's not here, but I'm lucky that my wife is home with the kids taking care of them. As much as it is a joy to travel with the 17-month-olds, I'm also thankful she's home resting and playing. I really appreciate this opportunity. I do come from a different lens. As you see, my master's is in conflict studies and peace building. But at the same time, I come from a family with police. So I recognize as much as police are an important part of our life, they've been part of doing good, but they've also been a part of where there's been a challenge. And in many ways, I feel for like policing, this has been one of the most critical times in their history. If we get it right, we can make progress. If we don't get it right, we stay where we are, and that's not a good thing. And I think the best policing are the police that are prepared. An unprepared police officer doesn't do good. It creates more problems. And hopefully I'll be able to impact that and add a humanistic approach to it. And I very much appreciate this nomination.
Thank you very much. Do I have any questions at all for Mr. Campbell? Thank you very much for being here. Safe travels back.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. So Senator Smith, I understand you're going to introduce Ms. Dorothy Lenning since her Senator Hester could not be here. I think many of us know Ms. Lenning, so thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. President, members of the committee. It's my honor to stand here on behalf of Senator Hester that sends her regrets and her regards. So I'm here to introduce a friend of all of ours, Dorothy Lenning. She has more than 30 years of litigation experience and legal experience at the House of Ruth Domestic Violence Legal Clinic and has conducted trainings in both professional and community groups all throughout the state. She's a wonderful record representing clients from family law cases, protective order cases, and in domestic violence cases, and has a long track record of anti-violence initiatives at the state level. She's a frequent flyer in JPR. She's also a graduate of the Penn State University and the University of Maryland School of Law. And I think she has the experience and background to make her an invaluable member of the committee and the commission. So with that, I'll give you Dorothy Lenning.
Senator Smith, don't go too far.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. President. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Dorothy Lenning. When I was thinking about this over the weekend, I was thinking I've been involved with law enforcement really my entire career. I graduated from Penn State and I ran a federally funded program that allowed law enforcement members to go back to school at the government's expense. That program was done away with when Reagan came into office, but it was a great program in the 70s. And I was elected to the city council in State College and I chaired the public safety committee. So I've really never gotten away from it. I started at the House of Ruth and I've been working closely with the police throughout. I've done new recruit police training. I've done in-service training. I've worked with the police on creating the lethality assessment program, on the fatality review teams. But I've also worked with the police when they haven't given as good a response. And when we've had clients who don't call the police because they're afraid of a negative response. So I think hopefully I can bring kind of a balanced view of both sides of some of the issues that I think the commission will face. And thank you so much for your consideration and thank you for the nomination.
Senator Reedy, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and it's good to see you. I wonder if you could comment just about, you're going to be on this commission and you've already been working some with law enforcement, as you've talked about over the years. I feel like the most challenging thing we send our police in to deal with is a domestic situation, because they get thrown into the middle and it's, you know, a lot of our police officers don't come from a background of professional counseling or social work. We're trying to get better with that kind of training. Can you talk a little bit about what, because I sympathize with them or empathize with them, because some of the times where police have found themselves being criticized has been when they tried to intervene in something, in a situation like that. Can you talk a little bit about what you'll try to do on this commission and how we can do better with preparing them so that they're able to do it?
I think preparation is the most important thing, and making sure that all the police departments run a gun check before they go in, look for any kind of history, including protective orders, ERPOs, other things that are going to be in their database to alert them to what they might be facing. I think that's the most important thing, and being prepared for what could happen, including that sometimes the victim turns on them. I know that,
Right,
we all know
right.
that. So it's, I think our greatest strategy is to be prepared for whatever comes up. But I wish I could make it less dangerous, but I'm not sure we can. So I think preparation is the biggest thing.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions for Ms. Lennig? It's interesting. I had an experience to do a ride along with some police officers, and it turned out to be the coldest night of the year on a Friday night. And all we handled were domestic violence. And it was husband and wife, it was children and parents. It was just, and it really opened my eyes because my dad was a police officer and I had no idea what his job was all about. And it's just can be a really difficult situation. So, I've appreciated working with you and we look forward to getting our bill out of JPR.
Got to get our bill out of JPR.
Thank you, Ms. Lennon.
Thank you all.
I got one more nominee left, so I got to be good.
Senator Smith. Ganesha Martin, please.
Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. President, members of the committee, it's my honor and pleasure to introduce Ms. Ganesha Martin, who's my constituent. She holds a bachelor's degree from Baylor University and a JD from Texas Tech. After law school, she actually spent the majority of her career working in Baltimore City. She started off her career as a special assistant to the mayor and then went on to become assistant deputy mayor, where she oversaw 6 agencies, including the police department. Moving along, she started off again at in the city of Baltimore Office of Criminal Justice, and during that time she was the director there. She oversaw the department and she did a lot of work with violence interruption. She currently works as the president and CEO of GMM Consulting. She spent her entire career in law enforcement and working around law enforcement and advising us here in the General Assembly. She has stellar credentials and is a stellar individual, and it's my honor to introduce you to you tonight. With that, I give you Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Senator. Good evening. I have to say it's good to be around all my Baltimore senators. I think Senator Smith was very surprised to see me walking around in his neighborhood one day because I laid my head there after I got married. But I spent most of my time in Baltimore City. So very happy to be here. Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. President, and members of the committee. All my people are here. So I'm very happy to stand before you. I'm honored to have this nomination. I thank Governor Wes Moore and Madam Secretary Edwards for certainly running a process that left no one behind. I also, in addition to the time I spent at the mayor's office, also worked at the police department in a couple of different areas. My last one, I oversaw the consent decree implementation I also was the chief of staff, the chief of legislative affairs, where I spent most of my time here in 2015 after or before the death of Freddie Gray, when we were grappling with police reform at that time. So really my time in Baltimore has seeded in me something that I just can't get away from, which is working in policing. I continue to do this in Baltimore City, but also across the country, working with police and communities to create sustainable solutions around violence and police reform. The last thing that I'll say is really one of the things that drew me to this position. I've seen how the Maryland Police Training Commission can make a difference in a police officer's life. We were able to stand before them years ago to change the drug policy for police officers. And I, as sitting on the public safety committee for the transition team, really saw the need after talking to the Maryland chiefs and sheriffs, how we really need to uplift this organization so that we can move forward positive change for police and community. So I thank you very much for allowing me to be in front of you today.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Do I have any questions for Ms. Martin? Well, we'll look forward to you serving. Thank you.
Thank you.
Finally, on this list is Senator Motz to present Susan Radcliffe.
Good evening, and thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. President, and Madam Secretary, and colleagues of the committee. It's a great honor to introduce Susan Radcliffe for appointment to the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission. Mrs. Radcliffe has an extensive career in mental health. She's been on the shore. She currently works and has worked for over 20 years at the Dorchester County Health Department. Currently, right now, she operates an officer wellness program. Her resume is replete with background experience and so forth. And I can attest to the committee through personal knowledge of her outstanding character and reputation as being a wonderful person. So with that, I'd like to introduce Susan Radcliffe to the committee. Thank you. Susan.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. President, the committee. This was worth coming over the bridge for. I don't know if you know, but us shore people don't really like to make that drive a lot, but this was absolutely worth it. Thank you so much. I got started in officer wellness about in 2017. I worked the school to prison pipeline. I am a mental health therapist at Hurlock Elementary School, and I also do programming at Dorchester County Detention Center. While I was there, I wanted to bring some programs to the detention center for those that are incarcerated. And then when I was doing research, I realized, oh my goodness, there's no wellness program for our correctional officers. And then I dug even further, and despite the horrific statistics, like the one that I can't ever get out of my head is that correctional officers have a 39% higher chance of suicide than all other professions combined. They are number one in top, the statistics that you don't want to be in. And sometimes the statistics are even higher from those coming back from war. So I asked the warden, listen, can I do something here? Being a public servant and in public health. And that landed into research articles to look at specifically with correctional officer wellness. So I think that that is my niche, what I bring to this committee and commission, and I'm really honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Radcliffe. Do I have I do have a question. Senator Croson.
Thank you and welcome across the bridge. And we
you.
share our shore ties.
Yes, we do.
And I just wanted to ask you, since you talked about this focus on officer wellness, and that of course is across the board, whether that's law enforcement, fire, EMS, correctional officers. And in my understanding with some of the work of this commission that you're been nominated to serve, is that we sometimes have to be careful about terminology, that this stigma that should not exist but does, whether it's those in law enforcement, fire, EMS, or just regular people. Sometimes the wording, whether something is called a mental health evaluation as opposed to a a screening or a consultation. Can you just explain, could you just comment on, is that a way that just with your background that maybe we could make some inroads there?
So it's interesting that you bring that up because in preparation for my new role, I've been having a lot of conversations with people. And I know that there's a big thing right now of the every 2 years, is it a screening? Is it a wellness thing? And the regs don't seem to be very clear on that, or at least not clear to me as of yet. I think that that's absolutely very important to get a clear definition. And then also a clear definition of who can do the screenings or the wellness checks and how, and what does each of them entail? You know, along with that, I think we also need to look at what are some non-traditional evidence-based treatment modalities that we can offer our officers, because let's face it, most of them, I'm a mental health therapist, they ain't coming to see me. You know, that's not something that they want to do. So I think exploring those avenues of what else is out there is really important as well. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I see no other questions. Thank you for your
All right,
appearance
thank
tonight.
you very much.
Enjoy Annapolis.
Thank you.
Our final candidate for tonight, Senator Helderman, will you present? I'm going to get this one wrong, I bet. Yeah, Yehuda Newberger.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Shelley Hedelman, Senator from District 11 in Baltimore County, and I'm really happy to be here today introducing my friend and my neighbor, Yehuda Newberger, who is up for the Board of Regents of the University System of Maryland. Yehuda is an active private equity investor and lay leader for many nonprofit organizations, both in town, internationally. He's a graduate of Ner Israel Rabbinical College, Johns Hopkins University, and Harvard Law School. Mr. Newberger has previously managed American Stock Transfer and Trust Company and worked as an attorney with the international law firm of Weil, Gotchel, and Mankies. He lives in Baltimore with his wife, Ann, and their 2 children. And he's just a person that I go to for wise counsel. And I know the University System of Maryland will benefit from having his input there. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I don't think I said this appointment is for the University System of Maryland Board of Regents. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hedelman, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. President. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm grateful to Governor Hogan for this unsolicited appointment, and then for Governor Moore for continuing that. And I've long been passionate about education issues, a lot of it in the K through 12 space, but feel honored to be engaging in some of the issues at the higher education sphere, and have been privileged to spend a number of months learning many of the issues facing the Board of Regents, and would welcome the opportunity to continue to do so.
Thank you. Do I have any questions? Oh, Senator Reedy.
Not a question, just to second the nomination. Mr. Newberger has just been an outstanding resource for a lot of us in state government over the years, dealing with different issues as it relates to higher ed and many other issues as well. So just want to second the nomination. I think he'll do a great job.
Thank you, Senator. Any other comments or questions? So that's our last candidate for tonight. Thank you for your service. So thank you all. We have a little bit of an issue. We have 5 nominees that didn't have a actual start date. So you're going to hear when our vice chair makes the nomination, he's going to hold those 5 until we have a start date. So we may do a quick vote before these come to the floor, but we do need a specified date for these nominees. So Mr. Vice Chair, are you ready to make a nomination?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we have a favorable recommendation on numbers 1 through 17, with the exception of number 4, number 6, number 11, number 12, number 13, and also favorable on all of the statewide members.
Do I have any discussion or questions on that? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you all. And it is 5:58. We did really well tonight. Thank you.